Doctor screams when observing what the baby had in his body. He immediately called the police. In the heart of a bustling city stood a hospital that had seen many tales of life, death, and everything in between. Dr. James Stevens, with his salt and pepper hair, was one of its pillars, dedicated to his work. He often found himself working late shifts that he was more than just a physician, he was a confidant and comforter to many of his patients. On this particular Saturday night, the corridors were quieter than usual, the faint hum of machinery echoing in the background. Seated in the break room with a cup of lukewarm coffee, Dr. Stevens was glancing over some reports when the piercing ring of the reception bell broke the tranquility. The urgency in the receptionist's voice hinted at an emergency. Pushing aside his fatigue, Dr. Stevens rushed forward, ready for action. At the entrance, a young woman, her face etched with pain and fear, clutched her swollen belly. Emily Johnson, as he'd soon learned, was on the brink of bringing a new life into the world. Her breathing was labored, eyes darting around in panic. But as Dr. Stevens approached her, his calm demeanor seemed to have an immediate soothing effect. He gently took her hand, assuring her she was in safe hands. "It's going to be all right, Emily," he assured, guiding her to the delivery room. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Nurses and assistants moved with precision, preparing for the birth. Emily's painful groans echoed in the room, but Dr. Stevens was the calm in the storm, his voice a constant source of solace for the scared woman. After what felt like hours, Emily's efforts were rewarded. A baby boy, his hair as dark as the night outside and eyes a deep shade of brown, took his first breath in the world. Dr. Stevens, with practiced hands, cleaned and swaddled the baby, ready to hand him over to his mother, yet, as he turned the infant, his heart dropped. A chilling sight met his eyes. On the baby's chest, just above the heart, was a deep, unsettling wound. It was not the fresh wound of an accident, but looked deliberate and eerily symbolic. Shock held Dr. Stevens momentarily, but his instincts kicked in immediately. Ensuring the baby was stable, he pulled aside a nurse, asking her to keep an eye on Emily and the baby. His mind raced. Was it a sign of domestic abuse or perhaps something even more sinister? Though Emily seemed as shocked as him, he couldn't in good conscience ignore the potential danger this baby might be in. With a heavy heart and uncertainty clouding his judgment, Dr. Stevens decided to involve the police. He hoped he was overreacting, but he couldn't ignore the potential danger this baby might be in. As the night unfolded, the hospital's quiet corridors became the stage for a tale filled with mysteries and questions. For Dr. Stevens, this night would remain imprinted in his memory, not just as a testament to the beauty of new life, but also a stark reminder of the shadows that sometimes accompany it. The atmosphere in the city hospital had thickened with tension. The once quiet corridors now buzzed with activity. The arrival of the police only added to the anxiety. Detective Laura Mitchell and her team took charge of the situation. Dr. Stevens, his usual calm demeanor replaced by an expression of deep concern, met the police officers in his office. With a detailed recount, he explained his shocking discovery on baby Ethan. Detective Mitchell, a seasoned officer, bore a look of surprise. This was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. Following her brief discussion with Dr. Stevens, Detective Mitchell made her way to Emily's room. The young mother was still recovering from the ordeal of childbirth, her face pale and eyes wide with horror. She clutched Ethan's clothes, seemingly afraid to let go. Mitchell approached her gently, with a mix of sympathy and resolve. The conversation that followed was a roller coaster of emotions. Emily described her whirlwind romance with a charming man named Richard. She had been swept off her feet by his eloquence and thoughtfulness. Little did she know that beneath that facade lay a leader of a malevolent cult with dark intentions. As Emily recounted her tale, Detective Mitchell slowly pieced together a story of deceit, manipulation, and danger. The mark on Ethan wasn't just a wound, it was a ritualistic symbol representing human sacrifice. Something the cult believed would appease the dark gods they worshipped. The realization that Ethan was meant to be the centerpiece of such a ritual left Emily devastated. It became clear that Richard, using the guise of a loving boyfriend, had manipulated Emily and impregnated her solely with the dark purpose of using their unborn child as a pawn in his sinister game, but Detective Mitchell was not one to waste time. With the pieces of the puzzle falling into place, she and her team acted swiftly. Using the information gathered, the police conducted a series of raids across the city. What they discovered was bone-chilling. Hidden beneath the city's busy streets, in basements and underground chambers, were altars and ritualistic symbols similar to the mark on Ethan. The cult had been active for years, operating in the shadows. Their reach was vast, and their motives were even darker than initially perceived. To the police's horror, they found evidence suggesting that many other children had been chosen for the same dark fate as Ethan. The timely intervention saved countless innocent lives. One by one, members of the cult, including the deceptive Richard, were rounded up and arrested. News of the cult's activities and the police's successful intervention sent shockwaves throughout the city. Residents grappled with the chilling knowledge that such darkness had lurked in their midst. For Emily, the revelation was overwhelming. She had narrowly escaped the clutches of pure evil. Dr. Stevens, though disturbed by the events, took solace in the fact that he played a pivotal role in unraveling the mystery. Baby Ethan, blissfully unaware of the storm that had surrounded his birth, was safe, and so were many others. The city would never forget the night when shadows were brought to light, and evil was thwarted by the forces of good. The rays of dawn peeked through Ethan's window, signaling his 18th birthday. The day, however, began unlike any other. The old mark on his chest, a reminder of the chilling past that he had been shielded from, had started to burn intensely. It morphed into a prominent star, pulsating like a beacon, calling out to the dark forces. Ethan had led a seemingly ordinary life with Emily, ensuring that he remained blissfully ignorant of his traumatic beginnings. However, as he approached adulthood, Ethan felt an inexplicable draw towards the occult. Books on dark rituals, ancient gods, and malevolent spirits found their way onto his shelves. Late-night internet searches into esoteric subjects became the norm. The world he was gravitating towards was starkly different from the mundane reality he had always known. On the night of his 18th birthday, Ethan's world came crashing down. The burning sensation on his chest intensified, manifesting not just physical pain, but a torrent of visions and voices. Whispers from the shadows spoke of a destiny about to be realized. The malevolent pact crafted even before Ethan had drawn his first breath was nearing its fulfillment. Emily, sensing impending danger, rushed to Ethan's room. But she wasn't prepared for the sight that awaited her. Ethan lay writhing in pain on his bed, his eyes glazed over, lost in a trance. His room was awash in an eerie glow, the very air thick and oppressive. Panicking, Emily tried to approach him, but as she did, the door slammed open. There, standing tall and foreboding, was Richard, Ethan's biological father. His presence was overpowering, years having made him look even more menacing. His eyes, cold and calculating, were fixated on Ethan. "I've come to claim what's mine," Richard hissed, his voice echoing with an unnatural resonance. Emily, drawing on courage she didn't know she had, positioned herself between Richard and Ethan. "You will not touch him," she declared defiantly. Richard chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Emily's spine. "You cannot change destiny, Emily," he sneered. "The pact was made. Ethan belongs to us." Amidst their confrontation, Ethan's agonized cries grew louder, the mark on his chest glowing fiercely, casting strange shadows on the walls. It was as if the very room was alive, reacting to the dark energies that swirled around. Desperation took hold of Emily. She needed to save her son. Remembering an amulet she had been given years ago by a healer for Ethan's protection, she reached into her pocket. The amulet was said to possess powers that could counteract dark forces. Without hesitation, she placed it on Ethan's burning mark. The reaction was immediate. A blinding light erupted, pushing Richard back. Ethan's pain seemed to subside, and the sinister atmosphere began to wane. Richard, realizing he was losing his grip, let out a roar of frustration. But the power of the amulet was too strong. With one final defeated glance, he disappeared into the shadows from whence he came. Ethan, exhausted but safe, collapsed into his mother's arms. Emily, tears streaming down her face, held her son close, grateful for the reprieve from the darkness that had threatened to consume them. As dawn turned to day, the mother and son duo knew they had thwarted destiny, at least for now. But they also knew that the shadows would always linger, waiting for their next opportunity. Ethan, enveloped in anguish, barely registered the imposing figure of his biological father advancing towards him, the intent clear in his cold, unwavering eyes. The energy in the room felt like a ticking bomb, each second pulling him closer to the climax of his dreaded destiny. As Richard reached out to claim his son, the mark on Ethan's chest began to resonate. A radiant white light emanated, growing in intensity until it was almost blinding. Emily watched, both in awe and terror, as the mark transformed into a beam of pure energy, piercing directly towards Richard's heart. It struck with precision, the sheer force stopping him in his tracks. The room echoed with a guttural scream as the malevolent force within Richard was overwhelmed by the raw power emanating from Ethan. It was as if time stood still, with only the sizzle of the energy clash filling the air. And then, with the final burst of light, Richard crumbled to the ground, lifeless. The malevolent grip he'd hoped to establish on Ethan, his tool for invoking malevolence, was shattered in the face of a more formidable force, a mother's unwavering love. Emily, gasping for breath, rushed towards her son. As she reached him, they both noticed that the mark, the very symbol of his cursed birthright, had vanished. Ethan's chest was now as smooth as the day he was born, free from the chains of his ominous heritage. The room, once thick with oppressive darkness, was now bathed in the soft glow of dawn, heralding a new beginning. Collapsing into each other's arms, Ethan and Emily reveled in the warmth of their victory. Words seemed inadequate, but their embrace spoke volumes. Tears streamed down Emily's face, not of despair, but of relief and overwhelming joy. "It's over, my love," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Ethan, still coming to terms with the surreal turn of events, tightened his grip around his mother. "Mom," he began, his voice choked up, "all this time, it was your love that protected me, wasn't it?" Emily smiled through her tears, nodding. "Love has a power that the darkest forces cannot comprehend. It's a light that can penetrate the deepest shadows." They sat there, mother and son, basking in the aftermath of their shared ordeal. The room was silent, save for their synchronized breathing, a testament to the unbreakable bond they shared. Drawing back to look at her son, Emily gently cupped his face. "No curse, no darkness can ever come between us. Remember that." Ethan nodded, his eyes reflecting his newfound understanding of the depths of their bond. "I will, Mom. Always." The chapter closed with two figures silhouetted by the morning sun, holding on to each other, a beacon of hope and a testament to the indomitable spirit of love. In their unity, they had faced down the abyss and emerged triumphant. The forces of evil had been vanquished, at least for the time being, by the pure, unyielding power of a mother's love.